Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. This is Afefe with Touch by Tarot. I'm so glad you're here on my channel. I have decided, you all, after a lot of thought and a lot of feedback from people I've done readings for last, actually for a long time, but especially it seems to keep cropping up in the last few months. I'm going to do a series on the major arcana, from the Fool to the World. And I'll probably do, I think my goal is to do one video a week and kind of intersperse that with some of the other readings that I do regularly for you all, the new moon, the full moon, and the week ahead. I decided to really deep dive on that for you all because increasingly as I build my practice, and I am an eternal student, I'm on the journey just like the rest of you all. Got a lot under my belt, but looking forward to what's to come. But I am realizing, and maybe some of you have kind of felt this as well, there is a tremendous resurgence in the exploration of astrology, tarot, meditation, mediumship. People are, for various reasons, certainly I think, due to the past couple of years with the pandemic, but people are really reevaluating and reassessing and looking for tools to help them not only cope, but heal, move forward, remain optimistic, etc., etc. For me, those of you who know me, and if you're just getting to know me, I'm glad you're here. Let's do it. I always say that I take a very practical approach to tarot. Some of that is because of my background in journalism, and I've done videos about that. I'm going to put some more in my about section about that. Also in the process of building a website, so you'll learn more about that. But the bottom line is, for me, because I have a tendency to want to know, the who, what, when, where, and why of a subject, I approach tarot, yes, as a very spiritual divination tool, but also as an opportunity for empowerment and an opportunity to use it as a very real mirror into my life and the lives of my clients. When we think about life, you know, there's some obvious things like, no, we're all subject to the stages that we go through. We're born. We're helpless little infants. We need somebody to feed us, clothe us, clean us up, hopefully rock us and nurture us and give us that loving touch. As we go into that toddler phase, we decide we want to explore. We don't know whether something's dangerous or not. We're just out here trying to figure out how to use these two little legs, and we're wobbling around, etc. We go through school, school years, younger years, in elementary school, etc. But my point is, there are stages of our development, some of which we are aware of as we go through them, and some of which we anticipate. Like, I don't know if you all remember, but I certainly remember being a teenager, and I just could not wait to be grown and do, because then I could call my own shots and do what I wanted to do and not be accountable, to anybody, right? That's an interesting thing, because what we don't know sometimes is, yeah, adulthood and freedom and having the power to do things is great, but there's also a lot of responsibility that comes with that. There's all sorts of things ahead of us that we don't see, that then we have to adapt to and deal with. We all we want to fall in love, and whether it's marriage or living together or even just dating, whatever, as an adult, we want to get out there and mix and mingle, but we're learning how to do that as it goes along. Very, very, very same principles applied with tarot, because we start with a card that, for those of you who don't know, it's called the Fool. And then there are a series of cards. They're called the major arcana, and they run up to the world, or a sense of completion. So they're the Fool, representing this sense of beginning, the sense of, potential, the sense of the unknown, to the world where we've been there, done that, wore the t-shirt, etc., right? And there's a notion that, you know, that never stops. The wheel of life, from the time we enter this realm until the time we've done what we came here to do, that wheel keeps going, just like the months of the year, the planets are moving, our bodies are changing, etc. Tarot represents that. It shows us that. And so when we sit down with the cards, and whether it's just, we just want to see general energy, or we're really facing some life issue, the major arcana are the ones that come to speak up. There are 78 cards in a deck, and those first 22, from 0 to 21, the world, from the Fool to the World, those 22 are like the major aspects of life that all of us at some point in time will have to deal with. We're going to see ourselves reflected in those energies. And so we can go to Tarot because it helps us gain perspective. First and foremost, it gives us a context. It gives us, sort of aha moment, which I always refer to the judgment as that, the judgment card in the major arcana, and we'll get to that. But it gives us something to look at and begin to have a framework to recognize why a given situation has occurred in our lives, or why we must effectuate some sort of change or transition. It takes us out of my goal for anyone I work with, and certainly if I work with them over a period of time coaching, is empowerment, 100%. I don't want people to feel like they have to come to me for the answers. I want to help people understand how to find the answers for themselves. And then if we need to collaborate, you need a check, just like we do with our best friends or our family members or whatever. We know something, but we may go to them and say, hey, let me run this by you. Very much that type of energy with Tarot. The thing is, it is not, Spirit doesn't impose its will over yours in whatever modality, not just Tarot, but any modality. Spirit is not here. Our guides are not here. However you relate to that, and whatever names you give it. Nobody's going to step in and, with their hands on their hips and say, listen up, here's what you're getting ready to do because I said so. That takes away, that defeats the whole purpose, right? We came here with certain challenges, certain blessings, certain talents, certain skills, etc., that our soul came here incarnated with. And then there are things that we are going to do. There are many schools of thought that say we signed up for the things that we are going to do. And we signed up for some of those challenges that we are going to face because we're growing our soul before that day comes and we say, all right, I got this part of the lesson, I'm out. Long time from now, I hope, for all of us. So I see Tarot, and I think it's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about it, because it's real, you all. It's real. It's not a bunch of woo-woo made up. It really rancors me when people try to accuse those of us who pursue metaphysical studies as, we've jumped off a bridge, we've lost it, we are somehow being sacrilegious, or et cetera, and that's another conversation for another day. I'm not going to argue that point, but what I am saying, and what I do stand for and always will, is we have free will to understand the dynamics not only on this physical plane, but on the spiritual plane. And the cards give us a really solid, beautiful tool to be able to integrate those two things, right? So that's my approach. That's where my head is at when I'm going to something. I know that we have a responsibility in our flesh here as people. We have a responsibility to call the shots. We have a responsibility. If we fall down, we have a responsibility to get up, and dust ourselves off and look at what maybe take a look back at what tripped us up. So we don't go over that same step again. But ultimately, it's on us. Self-empowerment, right? Soul purpose, fulfilling our purpose, having the support that we need with one another and with our divination tools from our spiritual guides, having for those who are mediums, all these different astrologers, all these different methodologies, Reiki, or Reiki, I'm sorry, um, to help us along that path. It all comes back to us, but we are given a beautiful opening and gateway to explore the many options that we have to help us. We don't have to do it alone. That was never part of the plan. So I use tarot. And again, as I said, I'm going to do this series going card by card from zero, the Fool, all the way to 21, the World. And I welcome, if for those of you who are, very acquainted with the decks, with tarot, with the system, if you have questions, if there are certain cards, we all have certain cards. I think that sometimes we blink a couple of times when we get them, and also understanding that the meaning of the cards can change depending on the situation that we're facing. The underlying thing is there. I don't know why just gave me an idea about clothing. Like, okay, we all have we have a closet and it has clothes in it, right? We got the hoodies, the yoga pants and the sweatshirts and the hoodies for days that we're chilling out or going out for a walk in the park. We got some fancier clothes if we're going out for a dinner. We've got some casual attire if we're just hanging out at a friend's house, etc., etc. It's all clothes. It's all going to cover our body, but it suits it. We put them on, we don them according to the occasion, right? Practical. Tarot is the same way. So you can have another reason why I love it, because you will never master tarot. Although I took a certification course and they said I'm a master tarotist. I'll take it. But the point is, I will never know all there is to know. I will never know all of your stories. My story is still evolving. And so every time I put the cards down, the dynamics can change. And that, while I'm saying that, let me my approach, no all right or wrong. People will often go to tarot or request a reading because of a topic that, people may say, well, where am I going to be, 5 years from now, right? There are tendencies that you can see, for sure, no question about it. But energy changes. None of us knew, in 2018, 2019, none of us had a clue what was about to happen starting in 2020 when the COVID pandemic hit, right? Life shifted. Even astrologers who knew something was cooking, but we didn't have a name. We didn't know exactly what it was going to look like or what it was going to do to people, right? So there's this idea that when you go to a divination system like tarot, sure, you can see tendencies, you can see potential, you can see what is happening and what you can do to shift or change an energy. You can see when you're up against it, you can see when blessings are being offered to you. But the idea is that we are constantly, I talked about that wheel. We are constantly moving, changing, evolving. The planets, the things around us, the people who are coming into and out of our lives, where we live, if we move, the relationships that shift and ebb and flow in our lives. All of these things, can be reflected when we sit down for a reading and we go to the cards. So just understand, and I think just as we have had to learn how to be adaptable and malleable and resilient as we go through life and deal with certain things, same principle. When you go to the cards, understand that there's no absolute, that what you see today could change depending on what actions you take. So if we sit down with some cards today and it's like da 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 da, but afterward you go and you make some drastic changes in your life, etc., and then we sit down again, we're liable to pull some different cards. And that is as it should be, right? I hope you agree with that. I hope you get where I'm coming from with that. So we're talking about guidance, not being dictated to. Spirit's not gonna do that. That I don't want to get off topic because that just made me think about talking about predestination versus free will, and that certainly is something that is reflected in some of the major arcana. So I'm gonna save that, but remind me, okay? We'll get back to that. All right. So, having said that, I think I'll go ahead and dive in with the Fool. And the Fool is a really, really cool energy. A lot of times people get excited about it because when we pull that, and I pulled a couple of examples of it, my favorites. When we pull the Fool, who doesn't want to hear that something new is coming? Especially if you've been looking for it, if you've been feeling stagnant, stuck. And so you think, oh, well, okay, what's coming? What's new? What's gonna happen? But the Fool is also very much a card about the self and preparing the self for what may lie ahead that you are ready for, that you may not be ready for, that you anticipated, that you had no idea was going to happen. So I had 3 things here that I put down, and I'm going to show you these cards. I said, when we think about the Fool, we should think about attitude, risk, and reward. One card that I pulled from a deck, it's called Black is Art, is attitude. Okay? Check out the hand on the hip, like dressed to the nines, like fearless, let's go. And that is very much an energy of the Fool, you all, when it comes on the table, when you're doing a reading. Because the Fool requires an attitude of can do, will do, want to do, feel compelled to do. I don't know why I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it, right? There is an attitude of let's go. And I said, that's one of my mantras. You'll hear me say that all the time in my readings. Let's go, let's do it, let's get it going. It is a start, but it is not a start. I think sometimes when we see it, we wait for, oh, so that means something new is going to come from me. I'm going to meet somebody new. I'm going to get a new job offer. I'm going to stumble upon something new. It is coming toward me. Well, certainly maybe it is. Maybe that's how it's going to develop for you. But what aids in that is that attitude of the Fool, being ready for it. Bring it on. Let's go. All right. So attitude is one thing for sure. The second thing is risk. I am guilty of this. I can be a bit of a rebel. And certainly when I think back on my life, I have taken some enormous risks, especially because when you are a spiritual person, we tend to think, oh, my guides have got my back. My ancestors have got my back. The Most High has got my back. The Goddess has my back. I can do it. And if I hit a notch, if I look down and my shoelaces have come undone, no worries. I can just stop and, and tie them back up. Just carefree. There is an element of risk with the Fool. And it's beautiful to take risks. But sometimes I think Spirit is also telling us to take calculated risks. And so it's very interesting always when you do readings and the Fool comes, make sure you get some clarifiers around it to see exactly like what kind of, what I just had I'm going to date myself here, but way back in the day, Sammy Davis Jr. had a song, and I think Dean Martin may have done it. What kind of fool am I, because in this particular deck, and it's called the Grimaldi, it's a Grimaldi deck. It's called the Curious Cats. Check it out. So cats there. The Fool always has, in any depiction that you see, almost always has a companion. And so that companion can represent someone in the flesh. It can represent spiritual guides. But there's this idea that you're never alone. As you embark on whatever journey, whatever new thing that's coming along, you're not alone. There is something or someone that is with you, that will look out for you, that will assist you, that will help you navigate and make your way. However, notice our friend, the crocodile or alligator. I always struggle with those two. But right there beneath the boat, and the kitty and does not see it, is just totally, like whatever. I know I'm on this little boat at that, not on a yacht, not a lot of space or room between the two, right? So there's this idea that you can be oblivious, with the Fool, you can just sort of be like, la, 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 and there's an old saying, God protects babies and fools, right? Because the idea is when you are innocent, And when you are moving into something from a space of innocence and trust, really, just trusting that sometimes those dangers that lurk will be, you won't get hit with them. Okay. But still, excuse me if you have got dogs. My neighbors have a dog that's a little upset right now. Hopefully it'll calm down in a moment. Um, but there's that aspect of, you know, one of the things the fool does is the fool just goes. And so this could be where you're presented with an opportunity to do something new, different, and you don't know exactly what all that's going to entail. You don't know, you don't have all the facts yet. But still, something in you says it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So there's risk. There's always risk with the fool. That's another aspect. And then my final of the three topics with the fool is reward. I love this particular depiction because she's already, and it says potential in this deck. This is the intuitive night goddess tarot. So the whole thing with the fool is that ultimately it is about exploring potential for something else. Moving to that new place, trying something different, revamping your life. I will share with you all, I was just led to do this quickly. I named myself because I was adopted, and the name that I was given, nothing wrong with it. But as I became an adult and as I began my spiritual journey, I um, I decided that I wanted to identify myself. Since I wasn't given that identity through, familial connections, blood relatives, I decided that I wanted to identify myself. And I legally changed my name. That's how I became a Fefe, in case you want to know, right? Not a whole lot of people, not a whole lot of mothers out there naming their children a Fefe. But yeah, that's one way that happened. I chose to identify myself and create a new identity based on a name that was aligned with who I am. Afefe means breath of life, right? And one of the things that I've always done, and I knew at that time in my life, I was in journalism by then, was that I was meant to communicate. I love communicating, and it also means the wind or breath of life. So I identified with it. It was given to me. It was given to me by a shaman who did divination for me. Another story. But I claimed it as my own. And I embodied it. Potential. All right. I hope that story, maybe you can see yourselves in that story in some aspect of life where you have decided, and that brings me full circle to conclude this video. With the fool, there is a decision that you make. To do something in a different way, to go in a different area, to make a change, to allow, trusting yourself, trusting that you'll have the support, trusting that what is, everything that you will need as you embark on that new area of life will be given to you. And that's not always mysterious. Sometimes that shows up in very, very practical ways. It can be the new job that is going to be, really challenging for you, and it's going to require you to really amp up your skills, but you're up for the task. You don't know exactly everything you're going to need to do, but you're up for the task. It could be a new relationship, friendship, or love relationship, where you don't know everything there is to know about that person, but you know yourself, and you trust yourself to be guided in how to move forward in that relationship, right? It's even us in this space. You don't know everything there is to know about me, nor I you. But I do know that we're here for a purpose, and we're exploring that purpose. All right? I think that's a really good place to end this segment. So always welcome your questions. My next one will be on the Magician. All right? And like I said, I'll try and do these about a week apart. Let me know what you think. Give me your questions. I'm always open to that, your feedback. And have a wonderful weekend. I will talk to you soon. Bye.